Have you ever opened an Excel workbook and thought, what on earth is this doing? In this video, I'll show you how to use Excel's built-in formula auditing tools to understand exactly how a spreadsheet works.
Welcome to another one of our Microsoft Excel 365 tips. Sometimes when we send a spreadsheet or somebody shares a spreadsheet with us, it's not always obvious where the data is coming from. And I've got a small sample data set open here. This workbook's called Tips Formula Auditing, and there's only one sheet, and that's the one I'm on, the auditing sheet. So what I've got here is a 6-month P&L account for my fictitious travel agency, Fantastic Flights. Now, if you were to be sent this, it isn't obvious what is happening with these formulas, but luckily Excel has a built-in set of formula auditing tools, and you need to access that from the Formulas tab. So I'm clicked on the Formulas tab, and over here you can see there is a whole group of tools here called Formula Auditing. So let me just demonstrate by clicking in one of the cells. So I've got this one here. This is cell G9. I've got that selected, and what I like to do is to see all the other cells that contribute to that total. They're £5,000. So you can do that by going up here and clicking this button, Trace Precedents or Precedents. Now if I click that, what happens is Excel will put a dotted line on the surface of the sheet, and it shows me a dot at one end, which is where the original calculation begins, another dot here for the total costs. We're subtracting this, and then we've got the final figure here where the arrowhead sits, and that's our profit. Now, having done that once, you can continue to click the Trace Precedents button, and now you can see all the other calculations that feed into that. So now you can see there's one of our assumptions here. The price is also being used in the revenue calculation. And if I keep clicking Trace Precedents, you'll see that the other two, the unit cost and the overhead figures, are also used in these calculations, and you can carry on clicking Trace Precedents until you reach the end, at which point you'll hear a chime. Now once you reach that point, you reach the end, and then if you want to, you can remove the arrows all in one go by hitting this button, Remove Arrows. But if you want to take them back one step at a time, you can just remove precedent arrows from the drop down, and that will take you back a single step each time you click. So let me show you another use for this, and that is to see where a figure is used in the calculations. This time I'm going to click on cell C4. I want to see all the other cells whose calculations depend on it, and we can do that by clicking Trace Dependents. So you can see each of those unit cost calculations all depend on that figure. And once again, just like Trace Precedents, I can keep on clicking, and as you can see, each of those unit costs now feeds into the total cost calculation. Click again, the total costs feed into the profits. Click again, the profits feed into the profit per month and also down into the total for the profits. And if I click one last time, that also then refers back to the total profits for the month, and it goes up to this little helper cell up here in cell F4. So you've got two ways of seeing where the information is coming from for calculations, simply by using Trace Precedents and Trace Dependents. I'm going to take all the arrows away in one go now just by clicking Remove Arrows, because I'd like to show you a couple of other things. Now, one of the problems with spreadsheets like this is that the default behavior in Excel is to show the result of a calculation rather than the cells that make up the calculation. However, there is a keyboard shortcut which I'm going to demonstrate now, and that's holding the Control key on your keyboard and using the accent key. Now, if you're not sure which one that is, it's normally the one on a Windows keyboard underneath the escape key. So top left of your keyboard, have a look for the escape key, and the key immediately under that is the accent key. So if I hold Control and accent now, wow, look at that. So what that does is it actually forces Excel to show the cell addresses of each of those calculations rather than the result. And as you can see from the Formula Auditing group, this little button here for Show Formulas is now depressed, meaning that that's switched on. If I click that again, it undoes that action and gives me the results again. One last thing before we leave this. So if I click on Evaluate Formula, you can see the name of the sheet, Auditing, and the absolute address of that cell, and then it gives me the evaluation formula C9 minus F9. If I click Evaluate Now, that now takes me to the next step in that calculation by putting 24,000 in place of the C9. And we still got the F9. Click Evaluate Again, and it now puts values in for both of those. Click Evaluate Again, and then it gives me the result. When you get to that point, you then return to Restart. So I'll click Restart so that we've now got Evaluate, because the other thing that we can do with this is step in and step out. Now, it's slightly different behavior. So if I now click Step In, what it does is it puts the cells in the next line. Okay, so it's giving me Auditing C9, and you can see C9 has been selected, and it then shows me the contents of that cell. So this calculation is B9 multiplied by C5. Click Step In again, and it now takes me down to the next level, which is 2000. As you can see, that is referring to this cell here, B9, and in fact B9 has now been selected. Once again, when you reach the end of the line, these buttons are both grayed out, and you then have the option to either close or to step out again. If I click Step Out again, and step out again, it takes me back to where I started, and so now my option is just to evaluate. So these formula auditing tools are extremely useful.
So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to this channel. We have lots more Microsoft 365 tutorials on udemy.com, and you'll find a discount link in the description, especially for YouTube viewers.
And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.